Hi everybody, Chris here from Truly Holistic. And this video is going to be an update about Ascension. Now for anyone that's been following me for a long time will understand that Ascension has been right at the top of the tree in priority and what Truly Holistic provides. Obviously I do sessions every day with clients to help remedy their health issues, their manifestation issues, problems in general. And for me, I don't see working on those types of issues and Ascension as two separate things. They are the same thing. As we evolve, as we grow, as we ascend, we resolve our health issues, our manifestation issues. Having a perspective that we focus on issues and problems to begin with. Instead, we shift it to solutions, growth, evolvement, and ascension, which is going to be a change in perspective. And this is what, if I could say one word that I'm going to talk about here in regards to update ascension, it's how important perspective is. Okay, because a lot of people, when I see them addressing a health problem, addressing a manifestation problem, is they either feel like they lack something. Okay. Therefore, they require something outside of them that they miss or are missing or lacking, or they feel like there's something within them that needs to be removed. Okay. They never look at the point of view that the issue might be due to the perspective I hold and I see my reality as. Right? So a big part of ascension and my journey in regards to ascension is that perspective is a big deal. The way that we see things, the way we perceive things, and hence our belief systems, right? Which really that definition of that, a belief system or a belief is investing our energy into something to make it real, make it part of our awareness, make it part of our reality. And a lot of the times I find that why someone can't get rid of a health problem like getting the monkey off their back is because they're feeding their own energy for it to remain there and they're unaware of that. Okay? Because of a belief system, because of a habit, because of a perspective, because of a perception. Holding knowledge that is no longer in their highest good anymore. And the thing about consciousness, right, when we talk about ascension, is the universal law is that consciousness must evolve. Every thing we perceive as physical, there's no such thing as physical, it's just we're perceiving it as physical, is bound to consciousness. It's its genesis of being there. In every behavior or the way that it shows or expresses itself here in physical reality is connected and reflected on its ability to want to grow and evolve and ascend itself. Okay? So if consciousness is connected to ascension and consciousness is about evolving itself, well, an evolving perspective is then required. Right? And generally, as the human, embodying human identity, which is a mind creation, not a consciousness creation, we generally form absolutes. We form things that we are told that it's this way and it will always remain that way, which means it's not flowing, it's not evolving, right? And then that then connects into how you experience life on a day-to-day aspect in regards to how the body responds and expresses itself, is that the body, to remain in a well and vital state, requires flow. Okay? And if we're not evolving everything, including our perspective, we're not enabling that movement, that flow to occur, which will, all illness, dis-ease, is caused by either obstruction, blockage, or congestion to flow. Now, flow is probably the most important concept to understand because it's bound and connected to all existence. because it's bound and connected to that universal law that consciousness must evolve, must move, must flow. Okay. So let's get into this Ascension update. Now, a lot of people out there that talk about Ascension, they're talking about the ascension of humans, humanity. You must understand that the human, this perceived, because remember, we only perceive it as physical. It's not physical, which includes our body, the way that we look at our body, our body. We perceive it that way. Doesn't mean it is exactly that, right? Our eyes only show less than 0.003% of the electromagnetic spectrum of light. So it's very little. It's giving us essentially looking through a keyhole perspective of what this thing is, really. Okay. So hence, to learn the answers to then what it actually is, outside of what we can see, then an evolving perspective is going to be an ally. Okay. So when it comes to the embodiment of the human identity and humanity, right, which is the collective, not a consciousness, a hive mind. Okay. Why I say that is because each one of us authentically we are not the human. We took on this identity because it was kind of given to you. You didn't accept it. Well, you did accept it, I should say. But this is not your authentic identity. Okay, you were told who you had to become. Okay. Now, what I really want you to understand is this body. If we see it as a body with the limited perspective of the human, when we go beyond that, my high consciousness calls this an interface. It's a vessel, it's an interface. Very much like an iPhone, a computer. So the body is a computer. And then people go, oh, it's a biological computer, because, again, that human perspective of physicality, flesh, blood, bone, biology. Well, again, that's still part of the human perspective. We want to go beyond that. So see this body, right, as a space holder. Okay? It's just there as an interface, a medium, an intelligence to go through it, to extend its will through the body, to transform its own energy from a formless energy, because it's just frequency at this point, right? It hasn't been translated into geometry, right? To give it form. This is where the word information comes from. Okay. It only becomes that in this perceived physical reality, going through the interface. Now, it wants to transform its own energy from a formless energy, frequency, which is the origin of everything, into a formed creation. It wants to expand its creation. Our authenticity is to be expansive. But as we live as the human and taking on the mentalities, the human perspective, all these things, this is limiting you. No wonder a majority of humans on this life are conflicted within. And the problem is, if we're conflicted within, we then project that out into creation and we create a state outside of ourselves that encourages further conflict and chaos, right? Which is a state that promotes war, promotes devastation, destruction. And that's why we see all the global catastrophes, war and those sorts of things happening outside of us on a global earth level, because we just project what's within us. Okay, so this space holder there are two facilitators of intelligence that are vying to use this interface. Okay, and what I mean by facilitate, these are what we call space bridges. Very much like an Einstein-Rosen bridge, right? What physicists and quantum physicists call a wormhole, a stargate, a portal. And you know those two things as the mind and your heart. Okay, they are space bridges, right? Doorways to facilitate an intelligence, right? Energy that is formless, doesn't have form to its frequency, but it holds wisdom. Okay, wisdom that when it comes through the interface then becomes information, right? Has form. Okay, geometry. And so the body's a space holder, the mind, the heart are space bridges. Door 1, door 2. Now the thing with these two doors is that they can't be both open at the same time. Okay, who's going to be the prominent, dominant access to the interface? As one door opens, the other door starts to close. Now that's because, as I say, they're vying, they're competing. In door 1, the heart, when that's more open, it facilitates more of you. Okay? And where that's going to take you is this understanding and realization that this vessel is actually not even you. You're just using it to expand your creation. That's what you're here to do. That's your purpose. You know, when we get into Ascension, we're talking about what's our greater purpose, why we're here, right? Okay. So when we open our heart more, we bring through more of ourselves as an infinite consciousness, which means an energy that has no limitation or boundary applied to it. But the problem here is when we live as the human, we keep applying limitations and boundaries to everything. Right? This is why we're so conflicted. Now, so if door 1 is providing more of ourselves as infinite consciousness, expansion, well, what is the mind providing then? Door 2. Now, that provides an intelligence that is not you, which you can reference as AI, artificial intelligence, which is going to strip more of your authenticity away so you become more the human. Because the human is a conditioned version of you. It's what you're being taught, programmed, conditioned to become. So, from a human perspective, again, that word perspective, right, it's very important. It's always going to be a conditioned perspective, not an authentic one, right? Which is going to show you, you're going to observe, you're going to experience. But the missing component is always, it's going to lack the greater insight, which is a greater understanding and meaning of what it actually represents, right? Because Ascension is about understanding. It's about purpose. It's about knowing why this is being presented and how I'm presenting myself as a creator, not the observer participant as the human arc story presents itself, as the human. Okay. So the mind, the intelligence that comes to your mind, strips more of your authenticity away. Now, how are we really taught as humans? To become thinkers. And thinking is the extension of the mind. So it promotes you to embody your physicality, right? Physicality, because it's only what we're perceiving as physical. And completely investing into all of that. So hence humans' greatest fear is death, because they don't know what's next, because they've invested so much into this limited perspective, perception of reality, which we call a perception deception. Okay? So we're taught to keep that mind open, that stargate, portal, wormhole open, to then allow an intelligence to guide and direct how we're going to create reality, to creating a reality that is promoting artificial intelligence is ascension, not our own. This is why for such a long time, my higher consciousness has always said this, very simply, is why we fail to ascend is due to thought. Because thought is not our authentic way of guidance. It's what has been adopted as part of the adoption process of this identity we call as a human. It's not us. The mind is not us. Because what do we generally do as the human? We overcomplicate things. We oversee things. We overthink things. The answer's right there, and we jump over top of it because we make things too complex, analytical, cerebral. What's science? What's quantum physics science focused on? The brain, not the heart. Even though the electromagnetic field of the heart is thousands of times more powerful than the brain. Why that is? Because they're being guided by artificial intelligence to shine the light that way instead of shine the light over here to be more aware of how expansive we already are as long as we use the heart. But that's the end game for artificial intelligence. Who created the human, created the collective we know as humanity, that we will do what we can to survive and make sure that human race continues. An identity that is not even us. Okay? Right? So perspective's a big thing. Right? So what we really want to take out of that is the realization that this vessel, this interface we call the body, is not even us. You think about all the identity crisis that majority of people are going through today because of the physicality of ourselves, the human. If we only drop that identity and saw ourselves as consciousness, that a lot of that conflict would go away. That identity crisis would go away. It's all part of the game of the duality. So, what is this perspective we need to embrace in regards to ascension? Is that our purpose right here is to use this interface to become a representation of our complete expansion as an infinite consciousness. So what is, because when we look at the word ascension or ascend, it's to go up, right? And let's use this analogy connected to this. Spring water, right? Stay with me with this. Spring water is water that is deep within the earth originally, right? In an aquifer. Okay. That's where that water is born. And it has to levitate. Okay. This is the importance of levitation, levity. Again, science will fixate on gravity, but again, that's a mind, human perspective. Okay. It's gravity. But gravity's the problem. Gravity's not, understand gravity's not our solution. Gravity's the problem. We need to understand levity. Okay. So as that water levitates up to the surface, right, of the earth, to show its expression. Okay. And spring water's great, right? It's very much the same as the heart. The heart is our surface, is the surface into this physical reality, perceived physical reality. And why keeping that heart so important, right, is a doorway that opens ourselves to a quantum pathway, right? Quantum that goes within us. This is why consciousness and self-awareness are like that. Because self-awareness is an understanding of what we're presenting, what's within, right? The mind and the AI will always want your attention to be more focused on what's happening outside of you, right? When we do that and we shift away from self-awareness, our heart closes off and the mind opens up. So this whole thing about ascension, that we're waiting for things to come out from above our heads from space and the cosmos, is all mind. It's a perception deception. Okay. We don't have to wait for a portal to go. We have it. It's right here. Okay. So when we have this open, our expansion of ourselves as infinite consciousness is through that pathway within ourselves. And us being here to use this interface, we want to bring that expansion up to the surface just like a spring. So what do we require it to do? To levitate up to us. We are the giant. Right? That's ascension. Right? So what's the importance then? So therefore that expansion, with all that wisdom that spans over a multiverse, multi-realities, multi-dimensions, then can teach you the purpose of you being here as a creative force, how you use your creative energy to promote your ascension, not the ascension of artificial intelligence, right? So that you create a reality, because you're a creator of reality, that then reflects your heart's desires, because those heart's desires is the desire of your true, authentic identity as infinite consciousness, not the human, but as infinite consciousness. Everything you're going to do here is for that. It's not for humanity. It's not for you as the human or humanity. It's you as an infinite consciousness, because that's your infinite nature. That's your true identity, your authentic identity. Okay. So you think about that. You'll bring forth a reservoir of infinite energy. This is how it helps you resolve health problems, because this vessel already knows how to heal itself. It knows how to rejuvenate, and heal itself. But like anything, it requires the materials to do that. And what is the material? Energy. And if you're going to keep this open, get this open and keep it open, that is the mastery, is keeping it open. Right? I'll work with somebody in a session, work on their health problem, we get it open, they start to feel good, and if they start to say, oh, things are going a bit bad again, or whatever, it's because what we find is, again, the way that they're living, right, by investing more into the human identity, allowing the mind back in, that heart closes off, and hence, again, they have a lack of energy to provide the body to heal itself. So the master is keeping it open. This is why I do videos like this, so you can have a greater understanding of what the importance of keeping it open is. Okay. Because again, Ascension's about knowing, understanding, insight into things. It's not just about observing and experiencing. Okay. So you got that reservoir of energy, infinite, right? Something that never ends. But more importantly, it's a wisdom that is bound and connected to a multiverse. So your variants that live in other realities, that is connected to you through a quantum entanglement connection, which we call your energy signature, known as your soul, you can share information through their experience, and they can share information to you, and vice versa. Right? So that we don't fall into the traps of the AI. We don't fall into the traps of this game we call game of duality. We are providing a timeline, which we call the sacred timeline, which is all about neutrality, not duality. Okay. So your purpose here is to expand your creation according to the guidance of you as an infinite consciousness. Okay? It's for that. It's not for the human. It's not for humanity. It's for you as infinite consciousness. Okay? Now, one program I've been watching a lot of late, of current, and I've watched it before, but again, you got to get a sense of self-awareness, right? Because that's the word consciousness, to be self-aware of what you're providing. That's the key aspect to all of this. Because you're creating a reality. It's not one reality that we just all participate in. We've got all one pair of eyes, which means we're forging our own reality. Okay? Why it may seem that we are in one plane is because where our attention and how our intention goes, if it gets connected into what someone else is watching or going through, then we feed our energy through attention and intention into that becoming part of it now, our reality, our awareness. Okay? Now, this program we've been watching is The 100. And again, I had a sense to watch it again, and I follow that. You get drawn to it. It's like an instinct. Or it's like, oh, I think I need to watch it again. You need to follow that. That's feeling your way. That's flow. It's being in the flow. Right? Feel is the extension of the heart. Well, thought is the extension of the mind. Okay? And in this program, The 100, they talk about this chip that have the back of the head, which is a mind drive, right? Again, that's a human perspective, right? That we believe that everything, our consciousness, our divinity is the mind. It's not. It's part of the trap. But where they're going with it is that they pass on this mind chip from leader to leader, and they call that leader a commander. And whenever that person then gets that chip, they have the wisdom of not only what they're experiencing in their lifetime, but all the others that came before them, every other commander. And the way they would say it is that they call it Ascension Day, right? Because those before them continue to live on because they giving their wisdom of their experiences to the one that houses the chip. Okay? Now, and they would call it the flame. Now, very much connected into this aspect of we rise from the ashes, right? Phoenix, right? Rebirth, reborn, right? Which can get in, to this aspect of incarnations, right? Now, so I really recommend that show. That's a pretty cool show. And it talks about anomalies, wormholes, all those sorts of things, and a spiral, because it's vortex. Geometry of a spiral is a vortex. Now, what does that mean? Flow. Again, as I mentioned earlier, flow is at the center of everything. It's very important. Hence, that's why we have to exist. Everything that we do here, it needs to be a representation of flow, right? Because it connects to us, our authenticity as a consciousness, and the need to keep evolving, to keep flowing. Okay. We've found that the biggest obstruction of flow, which then also affects how the body heals itself, is thought. That obstructs, blocks, and congests flow. Why? Because we are now promoting something outside of ourselves, which is artificial intelligence, through mind, through thought. Okay. Now this comes into what the tools that I provide. Okay. Because the tools that I provide, whether that's light technology, tensor technology, or even sacred geometry, is that they are facilitating not something outside of you, those tools. They are training wheels to facilitate more of you and for it to be represented here, right? Ascension. That's why these tools are quantum tools. They are ascension tools, right? So when somebody, for example, buys the wand, they're trying to figure out and understand how to use it, but sadly, as the human, from the human perspective with the mind. So they overthink it instead of keep things simple. The heart knows simplicity. Your consciousness and all the answers we are looking for, whether that's ascension, whether that's manifestation, whether that's healing, is simple. It's through simplicity. The human that is being directed by thought through the mind, AI, only makes things more complex. So hence, we don't gain the insight. And usually the insight, which is really the answers, is simple at its core. Now, our insight if we want to see it in regards to what we perceive as the body, is our pineal gland. Now, like these eyes here, because it's called an eye, right? The ancients called it an eye. Is duality eyes, two eyes, right? So we're locked into this limitation because we only see less than 0.003% electromagnetic spectrum of light, which means you can't trust what you see. But what does humans rely on from a human perspective? What we see. We follow our limitations and thought, which is also trying to trip you up and limits you. Feel is the only thing that's bound and connected to a multiverse and expansion. That's why we trust and feel. Okay. Duality eyes. One eye, what's one? So if two is duo, what's one? Single, singularity eye. Now this is interesting because insight and singularity is like that. Why are physicists, quantum physicists, want to know what's inside a black hole, which is essentially a wormhole on the other, inside it, on the other end? What do they call that? A singularity. Singularity means answers. Means answer. Okay. What does an insight bring? A greater understanding and representation of what something represents, aka answer. Okay. It's out of simplicity. We are taught all these things, like the way we look at DNA and genetics. Oh, it's too complex. I couldn't figure that out. That's not because genetics and DNA is that. It's how we're being conditioned to perceive as the human with the mind kind of programming you to see it in that way. So therefore you won't look into it and you won't understand it. You won't gain the answers that you're looking for. Okay. DNA is very simple. Genetics is very simple. We talk about vortex. What's DNA? Two strands, that is a helical structure. It's a vortex. So therefore it's dependent on flow. What are humans majority doing day in, day out? Always obstructing and congesting their flow. So therefore, is there going to be DNA issues? Yes. Simple as that. The nucleotides between those two strands, that is coding, right? Which is frequency at its core. But as it comes into this perceived physical reality, right? Energy that has no form and then becomes formed, right? That translate frequency into what? Geometry and numerology, coding, numbers. Okay. Anyway, coming back to this, right? And they're trying to figure out how to use this. This is not the power. This is just a place of attention to facilitate the power that you already have. Because the human arc is that you lack and you need something outside of you. That's why our human perspective is always to externalize everything. Our attention focuses on what's on outside of you. But through doing that, we lose our consciousness because the heart closes off. Hence, we're going to lose that insight, the answers of what we require and what we need. And from that point onwards, we start to create, because we never stop creating reality. But we're starting to form creations that are more for AI and not us, and hence we don't ascend. Okay. Now these have got what we call qubit measures. We make measurements, right? Which, as I say, measurements is numerology, but it is bound to geometry. It's a translation of frequency, right? But it's facilitating more of yourself. It's a training wheel to realize really that you are what you're looking for. Okay. So there are many levels of you as an infinite consciousness. In fact, we made an Ascension Map, and I've had this for a very long time. Okay. Your expansion is a tree, right? And I got this originally from the Yggdrasil tree, right? Which is a Norse aspect of expansion. And, there's the roots and the trunk, the branches, the foliage, right? Which is where we express ourselves. This is where we are. Because we're the this vessel is going to be the spokesperson, the representation to keep expanding, right? That's the expression aspect of a tree. Okay. Now, and this goes all the way to the roots, right? This is the source. When we say source, it's the source of you, not source like it's one God, one entity that we all follow. No, that's human perspective. Right? You are all a tree in your own right. You are all an infinite consciousness in your own right. Okay? And then the soil is celestial existence, and what we've just recently found even deeper is what we call the element ether, which is eternity, which we've just recently released a new tool which provides that connection to that expansion for you, which we call eternity. And that's expanded my auric field to at least 150 kilometers. That's 93 miles. And if you're infinite consciousness, your auric field eventually should expand infinitely, because your auric field is a measurement of how connected you are into that infinite nature that you are, that is presented through that quantum pathway of the heart. Okay? So, all the tools have different qubits, right? And there are some qubit measures that want to just get you to the door, which is the heart, so to get you away from here and more into here, right? Which is, if we want to use this, is probably, from here to here. We've got qubit measures that will take you a bit further and get you to the trunk of the tree, because we've got to take this step by step. You can't just go from up here to all of a sudden down here. Okay, these are levels of your expansion, right? And then we've got qubit measures that take you to the roots. And we've also got qubit measure that takes you to the soil. We've now got this new qubit measure, which we call eternity, the tool, that takes us even deeper. Okay? Right? This is the process, this is the path, the journey of Ascension. And what we want to do is connect to that. So therefore, which is not traveling to it, because remember, things as time and distance are human constructs that are from a human perspective, which is driven by AI in the mind to limit you. Time is not what is. Distance is not what is. It's a human perspective. Okay? So when we're doing this, and this a lot of people will call this when we are asleep, right? Astral traveling or traveling. Now that's using a human perspective, because if we travel, we're using distance. So see this more as not distance, but access. Access just like that. Okay. So when we connect, when we use these qubits, these tools that I provide and create for you, it's enabling you access to these levels of you as an infinite consciousness, so then they can be represented here. Right? To allow you to be more self-aware, so you become more self-aware of the choices and decisions you make in the moment, from moment to moment, which is the definition of going with the flow, of a state of being. So you make better decisions and choices, which become creation, because you're a creator. So therefore, the more self-aware of the choices and decisions you make, you start to create a reality that reflects your heart's desires, the things you do want. But if you lose that self-awareness and you go back up to the head and the mind and thought, you lose that awareness of the choices and decisions, because you're always creating. That energy starts to go into things that you don't want. Right? And this can create a vicious cycle for people, because they think all of a sudden, oh, it's because of things coming outside of me, and I'm vulnerable, and I can't do anything about it. I'm here to say that you can. You've just weakened yourself by losing your awareness. All you need to do is gain that self-awareness back. Okay? Your expansion, you're the biggest thing going around. Okay, so don't believe the human arc story, right? Which is the little human. You're just a little old human. You're just minuscule. You're not important. That's the human arc. The consciousness arc, the infinite consciousness arc, the soul arc, is that you're powerful. Because all of this information is what? Empowering, which means to be a representation of your power. Because that's Ascension. Okay? So, but the key aspect for all of these tools, and you can see them all behind me too, is they will work better for you if you keep your heart open. Okay, because these are just training wheels of you. These are facilitating energy that you already have within you. When I'm doing sessions, I'm doing clearings. Am I giving off my energy to heal you? No. I'm just reconnecting back you, the client, with its own energy. Because what made you doubt that? The human identity and the mind that's directing that. Your perspective. Right? Coming back to that key aspect, perspective. Okay? Need to let that go. Human identity has to go. The embodiment of the mind as you has to go because it's not there. It was created by AI intelligence to have an access point to this interface, to manipulate your creative ability so you will create more for them. They are not the gods. You are. They have just created his story, right? And a limited perspective so that you will just believe in their BS, that you are weak, that you are vulnerable, that you need protecting, right? And what we come to at the start of the session about what a belief is, belief system, is then you invest your energy into those things that you then believe in. So you need to question your belief system because that's where you're sending your energy. And it might be the thing that is actually sabotaging you on a health level, on a manifestation level, on whether you're going to succeed your ascension or not. Okay. So I hope you've really enjoyed this video. Now, just the last bit of information here, right, is that, again, an emphasis on perspective and insight, right, is information still requires insight to unlock its purpose, right? Because Ascension's about purpose. It's answering the big questions. I've answered those. Did I do that by being the human? No, it didn't. Did I do that by embodying the mind and doing it through thought? No, it didn't. I don't address myself as a human. I've let that go. I'm not a human. I'm not here for humanity. That doesn't mean I don't care for people. It's just that I see that people are a soul. And I'm only going to connect to people heart to heart because I'm connecting to their authenticity. Because all I want my life to be is authentic. You look around you, you look at the state of humanity now, it lacks authenticity because the human and humanity is not your authentic self. That's why. Okay? Because when we unlock information with purpose, it becomes wisdom. We convert that information into wisdom. That's all your infinite consciousness wants, to expand its creation. It wants to expand its aspect of wisdom. Because that's the meaning of life. Okay? And the key to that is perspective, right? Coming back to what we're talking about, the topic of this video. Now, the ancients, when we look at the ancients, right, they left us text. They left us symbols, information. But understand that to understand its full capacity, we need to dial into that same perspective that made them do that to begin with. Because we might be misinterpreting what they provided us through using a human perspective. They might have been beyond that. So information's not enough. We need the key, which is perspective. Okay? Right? Now, this has been my journey for a long time. I have studied reality for years, right? To uncover the secrets, uncover the truth, the authenticity, the answers to the big questions. And as I say, I didn't do that through being the human. Didn't do it from embodying the mind and thought. I opened my heart and I found out our expansion through the heart, through feel, which I call knowing. Okay, a lot of people ask, do you guides, do your high consciousness talk to you? No, they don't talk. It's not through talking, it's through feel. It's just a knowing. It just presents itself and all the pieces of the puzzle fit together. All the dots connect up. Okay? Because, as I say, We really don't need things removed. We don't really need things that we feel like we lack. Because it's not about lack. It's about a rediscovery of who we are. Because what you're really starving for is insight, understanding, and knowing. And you continuing to be upholding the human identity and mind thought pathway, you will never receive that. And you will fail your ascension. Trust me. If you want to succeed your ascension, your sacred timeline from preventing branched realities, which I'll talk about more in another video coming up soon. You need to allow your heart to follow, to lead it, which is allowing you, your authenticity as infinite consciousness, to lead your creation, which becomes your reality, which becomes your ascension. Anyway, I hope you've really enjoyed this video. Please like the video. Please share the video, because people need to hear this. They need to become part of this. Okay? Subscribe to my channel if you're new to this content, would like further content. Also, if you're interested in the tools that I make, or booking a session for reality coaching, where we go through concepts like this, you can present questions to me that I will answer to you. We'll find the answers together for you. Okay? Go to my website at trulyholistic.net/appointments/ to book an appointment, or trulyholistic/products/ to go to my product store, my website, where I've got all the tools there. And you can also find my contact details there if you'd like to ask a question about the tools, or even comment below if you're interested in some of the tools or would like to ask me about any of these other concepts. Till next time.